These three little studies, and I mean really little, they're 4 by 4, 4 by 5, um, are from a good 30 years ago when I would go out to paint landscape, plein air. I frequently would load up a board that would have six or so of these small little panels adhered to a piece of wood. And what possessed me to do this particular way is beyond me. There's much more practical ways to go about it. You could use just a one panel and divide it up by using tape, or you could use canvas paper and just tape that onto a support and square off a few squares on that. But at any rate, this is what I did back then, and I can't tell you why I did it. Except that what I would wind up doing on location when I arrived there is sort of warm up and try to figure out what it is that I wanted to paint, and do little, basically colored. I'd use some color to get into these little studies about what I might do. And here's a couple more. And again, these are ancient. This is a bad photograph, but it's a view from my roof. I can tell what it is, but this is how loose that some of those would be, just to indicate, main big masses, a little bit about the range of value, and a bit of composition. I was zooming in on a church in that particular one. Here I'm looking at, just a pattern of trees on a ridge, and that grassy distant, just a very sort of closely cropped study. Compositional cloud study up on Mount Diablo. So you get the idea. These are, even though I'm using color, they're little potential compositions, and that's what Module 2 is all about. Is just trying to get you to explore various compositions, even within the same scene. John Carlson. If you haven't heard of John Carlson's Guide to Landscape Painting, it's kind of like the landscape painter's Bible. It's written in kind of an old English style, so it's a little thick to read through the text. However, this is one of the pages in his book, and it's just showing little diagrams, little thumbnails, and that is as much of what you could do with Module 2's studies, to come up with some ideas about larger work, as what I did in the demos. You don't always have to use a lot of color. You can do them in black and white. In fact, there's a lot of artists that use what are called no-tans. It's kind of a Japanese, I think it's a tradition, like a style of getting just your values worked out in a little study like this. A lot of artists use this. This is just, right off of just Google. Just Googled no-tans and came up with a number of examples for you. I actually don't use no-tans per se, but there's certainly a lot of artists that do, and that Module 2 is encouraging you to do some type of thumbnails, whether they're full color, limited palette, like I did in the demos, or more, even just this black and white. It's fine. Recent example of this was a job that I just had this over the past couple of weeks. Real estate agent wants to give her client a gift of a portrait of the house that they just bought. I'm guessing that the sale went super quickly, and she feels like she wants to pass on something nice to her, to the buyer. So I met her at the location and took some reference shots of later in the day, and this is one of the first little quick studies that I did, based on what I thought would be like sort of a portrait of the house, what I thought was a good angle. And then she actually passed on a photograph that the buyer had taken of the place, that she said, well, this is actually what her sort of favorite angle is. So I came up with these two ideas, general, as I told the client, is just very quick, just laying in what the composition could be, and working out for myself how I could edit and so on, and showed her those, and she said, "Okay, get it started." And I did. I started to get started, got ready to get started, and she came back. This was one of the photos that the buyer had sent to her and said this, was one of her favorite views of the house. Photo is, it's kind of distorted because it's close shot. But then she came back and said, well, you know what? I would really like it if you could do it more of a sunset type of thing. So I wound up basically kind of making up some of the way that the color worked in the piece. But this is where I'm at with that composition. And you can the main reason that I bring this up is just to reiterate the importance, or how working out in some of the quick studies, I would not have been able to come up with this as a composition if I didn't do those little quick studies. So, just a little evidence of how they can be helpful. So a lot of folks, it seems like, are coming away from that module 2 thinking that they just need to paint fast, and they're not maybe getting the why I set that up. It's really more for exploration, trying to work out compositional ideas and so on. Not that you have to paint a finished full palette painting, a little quick study, quickly. Painting quickly is somewhat of a good thing, and I wanted to bring up a couple of so these next couple slides here are the other benefits of quick studies. I don't want to get you mixed up that I'm trying to get you to do all of this at once. These are two sort of separate things. When I was teaching at the Academy of Art, this was my boss, Craig Nelson. And if anybody can paint fast, it is him. It's just amazing. And what he offered in the fine arts curriculum, and I think in the illustration department as well, there were a lot of illustrators that might take his class, was a quick studies class. And this is a book of his. In the quick studies class, it was like doing drills, almost military type of training, in that you were painting fast, 60 minutes to do a little study, and then you'd have to move on to something else, whatever it was, still life or figure or whatever it was. He's got a great book here. Check it out. One of the pages in here, let's bring that up. You can stop this and read through it, but there's so many good things that you can benefit by painting quick studies, editing, brush work, and that leads me to, you can stop this and kind of read through his quote, but you'll see, and if that interests you, that book is available. I have one last little pearl here for you that I've used for years, and this is not, exactly related to Module 2, except that it is also another way of increasing your skills with quick studies. Not to be mixed up with just the exploration, but to work on the way that you use your brush. This quick study exercise is really brilliant, and I used to use it in the same school there for years, especially with still life class, because it is basically still focused. And so, at any rate, but it's good. It's like so if you think of it like a skill, and I would do this with figure as well. It's just do 25-minute paintings. But this is with still life. Set up a simple little still life, but with a strong light source that you've got some shadows and so on. Just keep the subject matter real simple, no big patterning or anything like that, and do a 2 to 3 hour job. 2 or 3 hour painting, a small piece. 8 by 10 to 12 by 16 is a reasonable size, and then take a break, take a breather, or maybe come back the next day and do the same composition, same size, and do it in half the time, right? And then do it again half the time in that, so you wind up doing with a half-hour study. Hold the brush back as far as you can so you're not holding it like a pencil, and use as large of a brush as you can. And you will, do that a few times. I still do this exercise when I'm getting into something that I'm not quite sure how to manage, like a peony or something like that, whatever it is. New florals, especially, I've done this type of exercise with. So quick studies, they are great. But for Module 2, really focus on exploring compositional ideas, and that's what that whole module is about, in order to work up some studio pieces. I do that all the time when I'm working into when I want to deal with a larger canvas. I do some studies first. Okay.
From scene to scene, framing your vision is the theme of this course, and is designed for artists at all levels to explore new ways of seeing the world around them, to recognize the potential for subject matter in the everyday, and how to translate that into paintings that share your unique vision. My teaching experience includes 10 years at the San Francisco Academy of Art, Pixar Studios, and the California College of Art, and private workshops for 25 years. The class begins with a review of the principles of painting with an emphasis on composition and design. I do feel that composition is the make or break foundation of any artwork, but that it's also dependent on understanding the basic principles of value and color relationships, the use of contrast and bold shapes, of creating depth with overlap, aerial perspective, and managing edges. Learning how to simplify the complex and tips to manage the medium of oil are also covered and explained in this section in a straightforward way that the first module is a primer for the rest of the course. Gathering, analyzing, and editing reference material to explore painting options is the next part of the class. In Module 2, we'll dive into quick studies with a constant focus on the design potential, while at the same time strengthening skills in brush handling, how to simplify, edit, and critique your studies destined for larger studio paintings. The third module will focus on how to handle figurative elements in a scene. Gesture, proportion, editing, and grouping all need to be considered, but practice is ultimately the key, so this module focuses and encourages lots of that. The final part of the course, which in many ways can be seen as just the beginning, concentrates on how to develop larger studio paintings while implementing the principles put forward in the earlier modules. We'll also explore various palettes as options in the process, address paint quality, and techniques for working into a painting during multiple painting sessions. I do look forward to the opportunity to work with you.